boys and girls. We're going to be starting the new book, Black Beauty, today. So I will have a PDF version of the text for you to follow along with. And I know some of you, your parents ordered the book, and so it would be best if you could just follow along on your book if you have one. If you don't have one yet, you can still get one. We'll be reading this for the next month or two, so there's plenty of time still to get one and follow along. Some of you might already know a little about this story, but it is a book all about this horse, Black Beauty, and it's told from his perspective. So he is going to describe what it's like to live as a horse in England, is where he's at, over 100 years ago, what it was like for him moving around to different owners and experiencing some owners who are very kind and others who treat him very poorly. So I am going to present my screen for us to read along with chapter 1. Okay, my early home, chapter 1. The first place that I can well remember was a large pleasant meadow with a pond of clear water in it. Some shady trees leaned over it, and rushes and water lilies grew at the deep end. Over the hedge on one side, we looked into a plowed field, and on the other, we looked over a gate at our master's house, which stood by the roadside. At the top of the meadow was a plantation of fir trees, and at the bottom, a running brook overhung by a steep bank. Whilst I was young, I lived upon my mother's milk, as I could not eat grass. In the daytime, I ran by her side, and at night I lay down close to her. When it was hot, we used to stand by the pond in the shade of the trees, and when it was cold, we had a nice warm shed near the plantation. As soon as I was old enough to eat grass, my mother used to go out to work in the daytime and came back in the evening. There were 6 young colts in the meadow besides me. They were older than I was. Some were nearly as large as grown-up horses. I used to run with them and had great fun. We used to gallop all together round and round the field as hard as we could go. Sometimes we had rather rough play, for they would frequently bite and kick as well as gallop. One day, when there was a good deal of kicking, my mother whinnied to me to come to her, and then she said, "I wish you to pay attention to what I am going to say to you. The colts who live here are very good colts, but they are cart horse colts, and of course, they have not learned manners. You have been well-bred and well-born. Your father has a great name in these parts, and your grandfather won the cup 2 years at the Newmarket races. Your grandmother had the sweetest temper of any horse I ever knew. And I think you have never seen me kick or bite. I hope you will grow up gentle and good, and never learn bad ways. Do your work with a good will. Lift your feet up well when you trot, and never bite or kick even in play." So Black Beauty's mother is teaching him all of the things that are important for horses to do, kind of similar to your parents teaching you manners. In this case, this is really going to protect Black Beauty, though. If he is kind and obeys what his master asks him to do, then things turn out a lot better for him. I have never forgotten my mother's advice. I knew she was a wise old horse, and our master thought a great deal of her. Her name was Duchess, but he often called her Pet. Our master was a good, kind man. He gave us good food, good lodging, and kind words. He spoke as kindly to us as he did to his little children. We were all very fond of him, and my mother loved him very much. When she saw him at the gate, she would neigh with joy and trot up to him. He would pat and stroke her and say, "Well, old pet, how is your little darky?" referring to Black Beauty, her son. I was a dull black, so he called me Darky. Then he would give me a piece of bread, which was very good, and sometimes he brought a carrot for my mother. All the horses would come to him, but I think we were his favorites. My mother always took him to the town on a market day in a little gig, which is like a little cart strapped up to her. There was a plowboy, Dick, who sometimes came into our field to pluck blackberries from the hedge. When he had eaten all that he wanted, he would have what he called fun with the colts, which meant throwing stones and sticks at them to make them gallop. We did not much mind him, for we could gallop off, but sometimes a stone would hit and hurt us. One day he was at this game, I did not know that the master was in the next field, but he was there. Watching watching what was going on over the hedge, he jumped in, a snap, and catching Dick by the arms, he gave him such a box on the ear, which means hit his ear, as made him roar with the pain and surprise. As soon as we saw the master, we trotted up nearer to see what went on. Bad boy, he said, bad boy, to chase the colts. This is not the first time, nor the second, but it shall be the last. There, take your money and go home. I shall not want you on my farm again. So we never saw Dick any more. Old Daniel, the man who looked after the horses, was just as gentle as our master, so we were well off. So that's the end of the chapter. Seems like Black Beauty has a very good childhood. It really is just the only encounter that was negative was with that little boy, Dick, who was throwing stones, and his master was good enough to stop that. Not all masters would do that. Okay, so that is chapter 1 of Black Beauty, and I have some notes for you to take on this as well. You can take them in your binder, where you also write down your spelling words. You can be writing any information about them, especially. I'll have you write a little about the characters in each of the chapters as we are introduced to some new characters, a little sentence about what the plot overall of the chapter was, and if there's any other information to add, it'll be right there in the notes. Okay, I will see you later, boys and girls. Bye.